Fanland. This is George Tremis here, and I'm with Jonathan A. Hacohen. And we're here to tell you about his new book that's going to make him a future best-selling author. But before we tell you the title of the book, I want you to hold it up because there's only 4 copies in the world, folks. 4 copies right now. Jonathan, please show Fanland and tell them the name of the book.
George Tremis, this is the Bible 3.0, the 6 commandments of the chosen life.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And it's even velvety. Here, take a feel.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Oh, that is a nice cover.
Thank you.
That's special.
That's not by accident.
It was intentional?
A little bit.
Knowing you, I believe it.
Before these books come into the stores and during the pre-sale stage, they send you what's called a proof. So you have a prototype of the book. There's 4 of these in the world right now, and this is one of them.
Beautiful. Something limited and special.
I carry it with me everywhere, even to the bathroom, carry it to the kitchen, carry it at my bedside. This book does not leave my sight.
And I think it's in your heart.
It has been my whole life.
But I got to ask you something, because I said knowing you. I know how busy you are. I know how much you produce, all the things you have that demand from you day to day to day. What possessed you to write a book?
Well, the truth is, George, that I started and stopped writing books almost my whole life. My mom told me that when I was a young boy around grade 3 that I said, one day I'm going to be an author. And I always had that passionate dream, and I would start writing, stop, look at it, say, not good enough, rip it up, throw it out. Until I came to the point where I stopped writing, stopped reading, was completely blocked. And then one day when I least expected I'm actually going to do it, the vision of this book came to me.
So that one day came to be.
Absolutely. Almost 2 years to the day, actually.
And I have a feeling we're very lucky for it. Or at least we will be when the book comes out. When is that, Jonathan?
So currently it's in the pre-sale stage. So you can go on Amazon, you can go Barnes & Noble, and you can order your copy today. And then January 18th, 2024, that's when they begin to ship out.
So a couple things, because that was a lot to process and I got to unpack it. So first and foremost, Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and this is your first book.
Absolutely, George.
That says something to me, Jonathan.
And it's going to be spread even further. Going to go to more bookstores, including independent bookstores in Canada and Indigo. So it's a process to get it across the spectrum. But right now, for example, almost any country you live in, you go on Amazon, you go click there, it's available now for pre-sale. If you're in Italy, if you're in the UK, Australia, the US, and where we are in Canada.
Wow, you hear that, Fanland? Everywhere. Now, the Bible 3.0. The Bible, from what I understand, is about spreading the word. And it sounds to me like you're spreading the word of the book everywhere.
Correct. And it's funny because before I even wrote this book, before I had anything, it was just one day, all of a sudden, I closed my eyes and I saw this vision. And I saw the Bible 3.0. I said, this sounds really interesting. So I ran to my computer, I type it out to myself, and all of a sudden, I see it. I start typing out chapter headings, one after the other, and I could see like the big project in one scope, and I can even see which order the chapters are supposed to go into. And then right away, I start typing chapter 1.
It sounds inspired.
It's, how do I put this? It's, you ever see, for example, a pianist, right?
Yeah.
And you have a gifted pianist, and you heard this story where they're like 3, 4 years old, and they jump on the piano, and they play it, and they can play it without ever having touched a piano their whole lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think of Vivaldi and the violin.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how I was with writing from a young age. It was literally like the words just flow through my hands. It's like God put it through me, and I could just write. I could literally close my eyes, and the hands are just writing themselves, and it's like it's just flowing through.
So it's like when they say mama knows best, she knew that you had a book in you. It was just a matter of living your journey to get to that point, to feel the inspiration, let it flow.
It's funny because, you know, the things that most get you ahead are the ones that can hurt you the most. Huh. And it's almost like when you're a young kid, you don't want to have this gift. Not only could I do that, I had a photographic memory. So like at age 7, 8, you could bring me a book, show me a page, I'll look at it, close the page, I can recite it to you. And it was like, it's crazy, you know, but you also start memorizing many pages and you can just recite it. But as a young kid, you don't want this gift. It's a lot of work, you feel. And I'm like, this is a burden. And then get older and all of a sudden the photographic memory is gone. And you're saying, wow, I wish I had that gift back. You don't appreciate what you have until you lose it.
So true.
But luckily for me, I could still write. The only thing was, when you're young, it's easier because you're more clear. The world hasn't been hard on you. You're not burdened yet. You're free. As you live and you endure hardships and failures and, you know, your emotions change, all of a sudden you're not that open anymore. If you're not open, the thoughts and the words can't flow through you.
Like a reverse onion, all the layers start to cover you, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And by the time I came to write this book, George, I felt like I was trapped in that onion and there was no getting out anymore. So I came to the point where I thought, it's done. I'm never going to do this.
I could imagine that brought you to tears, just like an onion would.
It happened many, many times, yes. And then I finally reached the point and I said, you know what? What's going to be is going to be. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I accepted it. And then when I least pushed for it, when I least tried, then it just started hitting me.
Amazing. But I got to go back again. January 18th. So what I'm thinking is, what is it? That is only a month and a half away, not even. And that means with Christmas coming up, I can order gifts.
So this is the funny thing. So this is me sitting with my publisher, right? Over at the Awakened Press. And they're great people. They believed in this from the beginning. I thought they were nuts. I said, I'm handing you 10 pages of a script here, and you want to run with this thing.
They went off 10 pages?
10 pages.
You must have blown their minds, because from what I understand, people send full books. They don't just send little mini manuscripts or 10 pages to really try to get their book published. And you did it in 10 pages?
So you want the story?
Yeah, I do.
All right, it's a funny story.
I think they do too.
It's a funny story, actually. So I told you, I went and I started typing out when the idea came to me all of a sudden. This was about a couple of years ago around the Christmas time. I put down these 10 pages. I wrote out 2 pages of the index of the chapters, wrote out the first chapter, wrote out a little bit of the second, stopped. And I said, am I going in the right direction here? What should I do? What should I do? And I left it for like a couple of months. And all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, oh, wow, I went to a book launch many, many years ago. I met a book publisher. Maybe I should write to them and see what they think. So I search in the Rolodex, find their information, contact them. And I said, Lindsay, hey, how are you? She goes, oh, Jonathan. I said, oh, you remember me? She goes, sure, you're the guy from Toronto. And when I used to live there, now I live in Arizona. I said, oh, fantastic. You do remember. Great. So I got this idea and I started writing on my book. Can I get some tips? Can I see if I'm heading in the right direction? Can you take a look at it and just see, you know, am I on track here? Did not ask to be signed. Didn't ask to write the book. Just wanted a little pointers to steer me. She said, we need to sign an NDA, non-disclosure, to make sure we protect you, protect me, as she said. And then you can send it to me. I'm happy to take a quick scan for you. I said, no problem. So I do that. We sign it, send it over to her. Takes about a week or so. All of a sudden, I can't recall if we did it over Zoom or we did it on the phone, but we speak. And she says, I love it. We have to sign you. We got to do this book. This is amazing. You know what my reaction was? What would you think my reaction would have been?
Excitement. You must have been overjoyed and thrilled, no?
I said, are you effing crazy? I was in horror. I said, well, when am I going to find time to write this book? Like my
What did
plan,
you get yourself into?
I said, my plan was to write this slowly over 3-4 years. You actually want to go ahead with this thing and start writing it over the next year or so? I said, no way, are you nuts? And you know what she said to me from there?
What?
This is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest books we're ever going to do.
That's incredible.
And I started steering in the direction, but I didn't agree to it yet.
Really?
Yeah.
You're hesitating. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's a momentous moment, right?
And people think, when I've told the story before, they think, oh, because you're nervous, you didn't believe in yourself, you had doubts. It wasn't that at all, George.
What was it?
I knew to do it the right way. I knew the mental commitment it would take. I knew the perseverance. I knew I'd have to cut out other commitments. I knew I'd have to focus, and I actually have to do it. I know what kind of mental energy it takes to clear the mind and go. And I said to myself, I don't know if I'm there. Plus, the truth is, anything you do, like for example, you're in real estate, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you're gonna go and practice in real estate. You want to help people buy and sell homes, for example, right? You're going to do it only if you get to help the most amount of people and really, really make their dreams come true, right?
True. It's one of the magical things I do.
Part of many, besides gym time, of course, and everything else.
Oh, well, you flatter me.
So I said to her, if I'm going to put in this time, I need to know that you're as committed to me as I'm committed to you, that we're going to give this the best chance to succeed. And then you know what she said to me from there?
What?
She looked at me, she says to me, you're going to be the next Joe Rogan. That's where you're headed.
Come on. Come on. And I'm sitting here with you right now.
So you know what I said to her from there?
You're crazy.
I guess we're writing a book.
There we go. There we go.
And we were off to the races because then we were doing this for about 6 weeks. It was like a Thursday, Friday. She said, this is the deadline. We're starting this Saturday. First meeting, every week we're meeting. It's go time. Are you ready to go? And then we met right away the next day and we were off to the races.
And it sounds like you got her fired up, and listening, it sounds like people are intrigued. So I got to ask you, back to some of the technicalities. What is a pre-launch and why should they order on a pre-launch? Because I think Fanland is super curious right now. I'm intrigued. Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued. In fact, I might make that copy disappear if you turn your head.
I'd like to see you try. If you want to keep all your fingers.
Fair enough, because you're going to give me a signed copy.
So couple items. You will get a signed copy. Yes, absolutely. Once you do your order on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And then you come, I'll have the pen out.
My assistant already ordered.
Well, that's what assistants are for. Pre-sales. 2 items we need to know about pre-sales. And so I'm new to this, right? This is my first book. Get to learn, finally, the experience. You know, it's amazing. Everything you start in a venture. One of the things I love about starting new ventures is you get to learn, you get to grow, and you're always wondering, how does this process work? Stephen King wrote a book. How does it go about it? And how does it get launched? So you got this thing called the pre-launch. Mm-hmm. So it turns out during the pre-launch, that's when they decide if it's a bestseller. So all the sales that happens during a pre-launch period, that's when it goes into the algorithm. They see the demand. Then they determine if you're a bestseller, and off you go. For example, George, remember as far as bodybuilding fitness shows go?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
All those people sitting there on a Saturday night watching you perform when all the audience is there, they're like, oh, wow, he did really well, or she didn't do so well there. How did they win the medal? It's because they already judged us the morning of when there was nobody around. There was 2 competitions. So in this case, there's 2 launches. So pre-launch number 1 determines as far as your bestseller status. And number 2, most importantly of it, okay? It gives you opportunity to purchase the book ahead of time, get everything in order. We get our proofs. We do all the last verifications. And then when launch date hits, that's when everything gets shipped. But if you want to ensure to get your copy and you want to get it right at the launch date, you pre-order it. Because guess what? All those droves of people go and order during the pre-launch. January 18th comes out. There isn't a copy for you getting sent out. You're going to have to go on the second launch from there. So again, algorithms. So to ensure your place in line, you order it right now.
I wish I had a counter right now to see how many orders are being placed, because I have a feeling there is a ton of people out there that are inspired so far by what they've heard and think, I got to find out what this magic is about. And I bet you there's a lot of people out there that know you, love you, want to support you, and want to do right by you. So I can imagine there's orders being placed right now.
What I can tell you from that end, George, is a couple of things. Firstly, if you've ever met me, if you ever talked to me, if I've ever had any effect on your life, this book is going to be for you. This book is it is 3 books in one, but it's in another way. It's a 3-in-1 book because it's part memoir, it's part inspirational, part self-help. Imagine, George, the feeling of writing out your diary your whole life, and now imagine publishing that. That's essentially what I've done here. I've opened myself up from vulnerability.
Even the vulnerable parts.
The very vulnerable parts, absolutely. And why did I do that? Because so many of us are so stuck in our minds that we're scared. We're like, I'm ashamed. I don't want people to laugh at me. I don't want people to make fun of me. You know what? We're all there. So I'm in the same boat as you. So you know what? If I can expose myself and I can say, hey, I fell on my face. Hey, this didn't go so well for me, but I allowed myself to pick myself up and keep going. You can do the same.
And there's strength and vulnerability. There is.
The greatest strength comes from that, absolutely.
And big respect for that. Now I got to ask you, there's some people that say, I don't have time to read, or I don't like to read. Is it only going to be in written format?
Well, to those people, let's start off with that. So, first of all, the book will be available in 3 formats. Okay, so you're gonna have the paperback version, so the hard copy that you can actually flip, much like this one. It's gonna look exactly like this.
Silky smooth.
Silky smooth. So you can flip through it. You can read it the old-fashioned way. Yes, it's gonna be an ebook format, so you can have it on your iPad, on your Kindle, and be able to read it that way. And it's gonna be an audiobook format. So you drive into the cottage, you're driving to another city, you're going to work, you're stuck in traffic, you have an hour drive. You're going to be able to listen to it as well.
I love it.
So there are going to be availabilities for people who don't read. But what I will challenge you is this much. If you're a person who doesn't read, and you've read, but you've gotten out of reading, make it a point. So get the audiobook. That's fine. Grab a physical copy as well and follow along while you're listening. Because my therapist explained to me, there's something so key about our minds to read every day. George, even 1 page a day, to be able to sit, focus, be able to visualize. Reading opens your mind, opens your heart. You see life a lot differently. So if you're saying, I can't read, I don't want to read, you need to read.
I agree with you, because so many people want to grow, they want to level up, and they talk the talk, but they don't do the things they need to do. They don't challenge themselves. They don't do the things they don't want to do, and they don't learn. And that's why I think you're right. They should read the book. They should buy the Audible if that's what it's going to be on. What is it going to be on, by the way?
We'll let the publisher decide that one, but it will be in audio format. And I can tell you, my friend, we're nearing the end now as far as recording the audiobook. And you think you go through
You said we?
There's a we, of course. There's a we for everything in life.
All right, continue on.
Think about everything you do in life, George, okay? As a professional, do you take on every single role yourself? No, you're going to burn out inevitably. If you want to get ahead in life, you have to know your strengths and you know the areas that other people are strong and be able to work as a team. Every component of the Bible 3.0, this was a team effort. There was a team behind this as far as getting the written part done and as far as getting the audio part done. There's a person, their only job in life is to create book covers. And this master is the one who created the book cover. There was editors involved. There's printers. Imagine how many people touch. So this is not me sitting on my computer and then just hitting print and done. This is multiple people. And the same thing happens in the audio end of things.
That's a very fair point. All of that makes sense. But when I heard we, I thought to myself, are you the one reading it? Tell me you are.
Okay, so in my head, it worked like this. If James Earl Jones was available and he was able to read the book, he would have been the guy to do it. Turns out to get a 30-second clip from James Earl Jones, I think costs $1 million. So to get at least, to get 11, 12 hours out of him, probably not financially feasible.
No, I would think not.
But even if we were to get James Earl Jones, let's say he was available. The other thing reading about this subject matter is books that really do well from an audio standpoint. It's not a professional reader reading it. It's the author with their emotions, their vibe. They're the ones putting into it. You put your heart and soul into writing it. You should put your heart and soul into speaking it if you can. So I went and over many, many sessions, sat in the recording studio, put the headphones on, had the mic. It's a $10,000 mic, by the way. So I'm talking into a $10,000 mic. And we are making an audiobook, and we're trying to produce the greatest audiobook ever made. And there's a lot of surprises in there. You think you're going to just hear an audiobook and me talking? You're getting more than that.
Really?
Yes.
So I'm so looking forward to it. But I got to say something. I'm so happy to hear that you're reading the book. I'm sure there's a lot of great people out there. Morgan Freeman's voice is great, but they don't necessarily feel the words. So in my mind, a truly epic, great book is one that transfers emotion, transfers experience. And who better to do that than you, the person who lived it and wrote it and is sharing it?
Let's talk about this. The book is called The Bible 3.0, The 6 Commandments of the Chosen Life. Any of those words sound familiar to you?
The chosen life?
The chosen life.
Definitely, that's the first thing that pops into mind.
Well, as it so turns out, The Chosen Life is my podcast, a lifestyle podcast, which was started 2 years ago. I started it right before I wrote the book. I started the idea of the podcast, and then the book flowed, and I happened to call it The Chosen Life. And do you recall who my first guest was on The Chosen Life?
I would say it was me.
You would be correct. And so creating this podcast in this format, bringing people on, talking about their stories, their hardships, their successes to inspire people to live the best life possible. This is now the ecosystem to drop the book into, because the book fits into there. And I thought to myself, if I'm confident enough in my voice to host a podcast, I'm confident enough to record it as an audiobook.
And you know what I really love about that as well? Is that a lot of people will be on social media and talking to fanland out there and preaching and saying, but how many of them actually walk the talk? So you decided over 2 years ago that you were going to live a chosen life and create a chosen life podcast and to write a book about the chosen life. And 2 years later, you did it. So you actually walked your talk. So if I'm going to listen to anybody, read anything, it's going to be somebody that lives and breathes what they say and walks their talk.
George, there are people listening right now, can be all sorts of walks of life. Very often, and I've been there, I know what it's like. You go to a job that you don't like, come home to a relationship with a person you don't want to be with. You sit on that couch, that couch where it's already ingrained with your butt, and nice and groovy in your butt groove, right? Grab that bowl, grab the chips, grab the dip, and now you're going to watch 5-6 hours of television and just try to dull the pain, I've been there. I know what it's like to feel at rock bottom and feel that there's no hope and say to myself, what's the point? And to be able to have that awakening and say, no matter what age I am, no matter where I am in life, as long as I'm alive, it's never too late and I can change and I can grow and I can evolve. That's what I felt, and that's what I want to help people do as well.
Amazing. I feel like the book is an extension of you. Actually, let's see it again.
You love looking at this book.
I do. And I like the silky smooth. But this cover is inspiring. It seems like the dawn of a new day, the dawn of a new chosen life. So can you speak to it about a little bit about the cover, the colors, the choice, and also how many pages is it really?
So it's almost 400 pages.
400 pages.
400 pages. I met with the book designer once. They got to meet me, know my personality, took a look at the podcast, watched the podcast, and gave them an idea of what I thought a cover would look like, but said, leaving it to you. They talked about my favorite colors, everything else. I left it, and then they came back. Publisher comes back to me at some point, says, the prototype is ready. And I said, oh boy. I run home, go on the computer, and she says to me, if you don't like it, we can make tweaks, whatever. No word of a lie. This was the prototype. There's not one single tweak from the original concept. He hit it so bang on. He so understood what was in my mind, but it looks nothing like what I envisioned. It's so funny. I love the color blue. I find the color blue very calming.
It is.
I feel like there's a sea of hope in the sky also, but then orange. Orange is a fun color. Orange.
A little bit more for them. Tilt it up so they can see.
Orange is a very inspirational color. And he loved the number 6. Something about the 6, and it became
fluid. It flows.
So in my life, I've always been fascinated with the number 3. Everything's in threes. So 6 is 2 times 3. So there's a magical part about the 6. And I feel calm, but I feel hope. That's what I got out of this cover. And I said to him, this is our cover.
Peace and purpose. That's what I take from it.
It's so funny. Even the font, the coloring, there's a reason for everything. Absolutely. Beautiful. So yeah, it's again, you see this in the store, you should want to pick this up and say, I feel hopeful. I'm excited. I want to do this.
Pre-launch, Amazon, coming to you January 18th. You got a sneak peek. If you want to see the real deal, place your order. Now I got to ask you, 400 pages. Man, this was a big undertaking then.
So you want to know the process?
Yeah, I think we all do.
So it's hilarious because after I was near the end of the process. We were around so it's 22 chapters. We're around chapter 20 or so. And I happened to get an article on my feed. I love reading articles, and my news feed knows, my Flipboard knows what I like to read. So it sends me all sorts of articles. All of a sudden, one morning, it says, what was Hemingway's style of writing? I'm like, this should be fascinating. Me and him have the exact same routine almost. He liked to wake up early in the morning, have his routine. So for me, it was showering, have a coffee, no food in the system yet, and just write and write and write. So I would work I'd be up in the cottage. I look at the water, 7 a.m. always, wake up, shower, grab the coffee, and begin to write till about 1, 2 p.m. And every time, 1 or 2 chapters would get done. And they would just flow and flow. I would marinate on it the night before. I'd think of the topic, think of what I want, just kind of let it go to sleep, wake up, and boom, it's there.
So having done some writing myself, it sounds like it truly was inspired, that it flowed from you.
I'm almost embarrassed to say this, George. It's going to sound so cheesy and corny, but reading the audiobook, I wasn't reading it as the author. I was reading it as a reader because I don't feel like I even wrote it. Because I was so possessed in the zone when I was doing it that I go back now and read it and I say, wow, this is pretty interesting stuff. Because at the end of the day, I feel like I didn't write it. I feel the universe put it through me. I was the conduit to get it into writing form, but it was the universe that transferred it to me because I was open to it.
I believe it. And I also have a bit of a gift. A gift that I can kind of sense.
I like gifts.
Sense what people are thinking, feeling. And I sense that Fanland, and I know I'm right, is really curious. 6 commandments. Do you want to give us all 6 or maybe a sneak peek of what some of them are?
Well, we know the traditional commandments, right?
True.
You got the 10 commandments. At the end of the day, 6 is much simpler, right? It's hard to remember 10.
Best to follow.
6 is a lot simpler. And the way the commandments were so important to follow, because this is the way of life, this is why these are called the 6 commandments, because this is the way you need to live. Mm-hmm. This book, let's start off this way. This book is in 3 parts. I told you that before, right?
Correct.
And I told you my reasoning from a personal standpoint, but why it's actually in 3 parts. In part 1, we teach you how the body, mind, and soul work. Okay? So you got to know how you function first. You can't do anything until you know how you're composed and how you function. Then we got the 6 commandments. You want to know the 6 commandments? I'm happy to share you the 6 commandments.
Excellent.
Exercise, nutrition, sleep, water, and then yoga and meditation. Not in those order, except the last 2. So we got the first 4 commandments and then yoga and meditation. So you get exercise, nutrition, sleep, and water, right? Once you get those down, then you're ready for yoga and meditation. Then we get the 6 commandments down, which is not an easy thing, George. To incorporate all those 6 vital items into your life. When you got those down, you're now ready for the road to enlightenment. And that's where part 3. And in part 3, we talk about how to set goals, how to manifest, how to accept failure, how to embrace failure, how to let go. So many components of how to make the best life possible. But George, how are you going to be able to do these things if you don't even know how you're composed and you don't even know the basic life systems to get down?
I'm just thinking of how many people need to read this book, Jonathan. Like, I can't tell you how many people reach out to me for advice on
daily, I'm sure.
Yeah, going to the gym, eating right, and then they don't eat right, and then they feel like they're a loser or a quitter. And that last part where you talked about how to let go and how to commit and set goals and manifest it. I mean, tell me more about that. Like, talk to Fanland, because I think there's so many people out there that say, I started going to the gym and then I quit, and then I eat a bag of chips on the couch, and then I hate myself for it, so then I eat more chips, and then I think, forget it, I'm a loser. I mean, I think a lot of people go through that, whether they want to be vulnerable and admit it or not.
We got a big problem as a society, George. And our problem goes like this. We're putting the cart before the horse. You're so fixated, I want to set my goal. I have to meet a goal. And you get so driven by that. Let's not worry about the goals right now. Let's just worry about waking up in the morning and not feeling stressed. Let's live during the day and not hate our lives. And let's be able to go to sleep soundly and be happy. So in order to set that goal, your mind needs to be set. Your mind has to be focused and clear, right? Your body's got to be strong to accept it. And you need to be energized. You need soul. So we need to work our way back. We need to basically go back down to basics. If we could have been taught these things as children, okay? If we went to kindergarten, and we went to grade 1, and guess what? They taught us how to meditate, and they taught us yoga, and they instructed us to drink water properly, and the value of sleep. If we had all those basics down early, we could have been so much more ahead of the game. But unfortunately, with children, it's so much easier just to let them function and not teach them every part of the system and why it works that way, or give up and just say, you know what, they'll figure out one day, and then we have to go back and do it as adults.
Give them the iPad, give them the ice cream, and let them go.
That'll make them stop crying. Meditation is not going to make them stop crying.
I feel like this book should be in schools. I feel like it should be in schools.
Another reason why it's called the Bible 3.0, you go to a hotel or motel and you open up your dresser drawer there, right? And you got your nightstand. What do you see in there?
A Bible.
A Bible, right. And you open up that Bible. Why is that Bible there?
Because it's supposed to provide guidance.
The answers are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bible 3.0. In this modern day and age, you need answers. And you open up the Bible, whether it's number 1, number 2, depending on your faith, and you'll have answers in there, but they're in riddles, right? It's almost like talking to Yoda, and you're trying to understand, okay, what does that mean behind that story, that story? I've cut through it, and I've given you an actual, legible, easy to read understanding of what concepts we got to put together. And guess what? You read Bible 3.0 and you put those life systems together, Bible 1, Bible 2 will make a lot more sense to you.
This is making sense to me. And you know what I'm noticing and feeling, Jonathan?
What, George?
Is that this is coming out in your eyes. I don't know if Fanland can see it, but I see it in your eyes. Almost like if I push a little bit, just press on the right button, I could get a little bit of waterworks going. I think you've lived this experience. I think you feel this experience. I think you're sharing this experience. Tell me I'm wrong.
If I had to be 100% transparent with you, when we finish this book, and I say we again with the team, because again, I'm not who I am without having editors, without people that read through it and come back and make comments and say, hey, let's go back to the drawing board, or can you expand on this? You know, somebody who can go and hire a ghostwriter and get them to write a book for you, or talking to a tape recorder, by all means, go ahead, that's fine. But my blood, sweat, and tears are into this book.
And your life, I feel.
I said to them, I literally feel how Da Vinci must have felt when he painted the Mona Lisa. I wanted to give the greatest book ever written. Wow. This is my life and soul. This is my existence on this earth. I want to be able to put this in so people can live my life and then be able to find the life that they're going to live. When I'm gone, and it's going to be 100 years from now, 200 years from now, I want this to be able to be something that somebody can pick up in any generation and say, I get this. This works for me. This is something timeless. You're always going to need these principles.
Wow.
Let's get to it.
You know, I feel like a book like this, like, how do you almost even put a price tag on it? Like, how do you? Like, I'm surprised because I've heard that you buy a book for at least one idea that's maybe $1 million idea, but it sounds to me like there's several million, maybe even 6 million in this book.
Well, I'm not going to say I was angry with my publisher, because I'm never angry with them. They've been so good to me and so passionate about this project and always uplifted me that way, and I'm so grateful. But as we're nearing the end, I came back and I said, look, this book is in 3 parts. This is 3 books we're talking about right now. I think volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. You're literally giving people 3 books at the same time. Maybe it's too much book. Maybe we give it to them in pieces and we sell it that way, and that'd make a lot more money. Plus, it gives people, you know, they're not going to get overwhelmed with too much information. And you know what they said to me when I came back with that?
Tell me.
Hell no. They're getting bang for their buck. They're getting it all. They're getting the whole enchilada, and they're getting it in one book, and we're going to give the best value book that people have ever seen. Literally, there's 22 chapters in here, George, and there's 22 concepts. There could have been a book separately on each of these chapters. You don't have to go buy a book on manifestation. You don't have to go buy a book on yoga. This tells it all in one book. And I said, you're very generous, but you know what you're doing, so let's ride with that.
It sounds like a one-stop shop, 3-for-1, triple, trifecta deal of a lifetime to give you a roadmap to your personal success. Am I right?
Now, you want to get blown away? Are you ready to get blown away?
Do it.
All right, George. Do you see those numbers over there?
You're kidding me.
I kid you not.
This is less than $10 per section, less than $5 per commandment.
If you live in Los Angeles, you live in New York, and you jump in Barnes & Noble, how much you paying for that book?
$20.95.
That's not $2,095, is it, George?
No, it's $20.95.
$20.95 for the cost of 3 lattes, and you get to change your life. How cool is that?
It does a lot more for me than my Starbucks lattes, let me tell you. Wow. Wow. Okay, so let's switch it up a little bit here. Let's talk about some of your boldness, because we've talked about your humbleness, your team orientation, but Bible 3.0, a little bold, is it not?
I would say a lot bold, yes. And I figured it's going to ruffle a little bit of feathers, certainly.
I think so.
Especially in the religious community. But here's the funny part about it, and I was already expecting the backlash. But I would say to any person out there that says, that's against religion, that's very wrong, please go read the book and then come back to me and tell me you feel the same way. Because no matter what religion or what faith you are in, this book is encouraging you to follow that path. The whole idea, George, is that we're living in a world and at times filled with hate and anger and people, I don't like you because you're this, you're that. And why are we so focused on that? Why do we need to focus on all this? You know why? Because we want to be able to pick on other people because it makes us not look at ourselves. Let's bring it back down to basics. If we learn to love ourselves, we're not going to hate others.
Yes.
So you go pick up this book like you would a Bible. It's that important. But what it's doing is it's respecting the Bible. It's saying, by all means, whatever your faith is, pick up your religious text. Absolutely. Get inspired. So it's like a subtext. It's not replacing it. It's adding to it.
I get it. You know me. You know I can be a wordy guy. I like to create catchy sayings. It's not in conflict with religion. It complements the religion. Am I correct in saying that?
I would say yes, but at the end of the day, George, we're all challenged in life. Here's the deal. You're born into a family, and you're born into a faith. And you're taught, more than likely, this is what you're going to do, and this is how things are done, right? There's a reach a point in time that it's not a bad thing to say, why am I doing this? Why is this driving me? Maybe learn the background of it. Maybe go check out other faiths. It's not a bad thing. And understand how the rest of the world works. A lot of us, the way we were born and grow up, we're taught this is our religion and there's no other religions out there. That's taboo. It's not taboo. It's not a bad thing. You have a friend of a different faith, go to their temple. Go check it out. And guess what? You'll come back to your temple with a new perspective.
Absolutely.
It's called love, admiration, understanding. But you'll get a different sense of it. So that's what the book is doing. You know, me and my own faith, that's what I choose to practice. That's what I choose to label myself. But what I am, I'm not trying to make people into me. I'm just saying I found my path because I found how to be open. Find your way to be open and find your path.
They can find their path in observing how you found yours, is the way I see it. Now, I do have a bit of an insider backstage pass, if you will. So Fanland's going to hear a new term here. You talked about labeling yourself. You know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going with this.
Tell me, do you want to share the label? Do you want me to say it and you speak to it? It's your label.
One of my best friends is my rabbi, and don't think he's not in love with it. But when I label myself from a faith perspective, I'm a Jubu, Jewish Buddhist. Why am I a Jewish Buddhist? Well, we do talk about it in the book, but should I give a sneak peek, George?
Yes, by all means.
Are you sure?
They want it.
The publisher is going to be mad at me, George.
You know what? Publisher, Fanland.
All right, we'll make one exception. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
Absolutely, it is.
So here I am, born and raised in the Jewish faith and attending Buddhist temple. Okay? And then people say to me, what are you? What are you? What's your background? I'm like, okay, so I'm a Jew that goes to Buddhist temple. That sounds like a long, long description there. Gets overwhelming, and people are looking at me, why is he going into such lengths to describe this?
Sounds like a tongue twister.
It is, really. Because I'm Jewish religiously, but spiritually, lifestyle, I also practice Buddhism. I don't see that for me as a religion, but for some people it is, and that's okay. Let's not get too hung up on his labels. But in the day, a Jew that goes to a Buddhist temple, to me, is a Jubu. So I'm a Jubu. And that's where that
catchy.
came. It is catchy. It is out there. I didn't invent this term. I created the term in my mind when I needed to describe myself, but I saw that it did exist, but it's definitely not mainstream. It's a very difficult thing to find. So now, whether you're a Jubu or a mubu or whatever different faiths you have, if you're like, I'm not one perfect label, I'm kind of 2, 3 things, you can mesh them together. That's okay. That doesn't not make you a bad person.
So I have a feeling there's some people out there in Fanland that are saying, well, maybe this isn't for me then, because I'm Christian or whatever faith or spirituality or agnostic. Like, I know there's going to be people out there saying, is it for me then? What
I'm
do you
going to
say?
stop you right there, George. Right there.
All right.
This is not a Jubu manual, okay?
Okay.
This is not the text of a Jubu. So we don't go to a Jubu temple and now we're worshiping as a Jubu. It's not like that at all.
Okay.
This is a non-denominational book. Let's be frank about it. It's called the Bible and it's non-denominational.
It sounds religious, but it's spiritual.
The idea is it's a lifestyle guidebook written so happens by a Jubu, but not preaching the practices of a Jubu. I talk about that all these other faiths out there, and whatever faith you're in, you're going to be able to absorb. Because guess what? Whatever your religious faith is, I bet you could use some sleep. I bet you could use some water. You should eat right, and you should exercise.
So it sounds like a roadmap for all.
I would think so. Where we get the caught up, where we're going to get really stuck, George, is when we get into yoga and meditation. And there's a whole bunch of texts about there where the idea is there are people that associate yoga, meditation with different religions, and why we need to stop with those labels and understand it's not about religion. It's about getting our minds focused, getting our bodies healthy, igniting our souls, and then we're ready to go. Then we're ready to conquer the world.
So I got to ask you another question then.
Please.
Because unfortunately, we live in a negative world.
Slightly right now, very slightly.
And so people are always negative self-talking. So there's going to be people that maybe have manifested positivity in their life. They're fit, they're healthy, they go to yoga, they do these things, but they don't realize there's still some negativity where they say, I don't need it. How could it help me? Look at me. What would you say to them?
I once saw an expression, I'm going to butcher it obviously, but the intelligent person thinks they know nothing, and the less intelligent person thinks they know everything. As soon as you think you know everything, as soon as you think you don't need it, that's when you're done, period. If you think, George, about every single thing we've ever accomplished and done in our lives, okay? I don't know about you. When you were born, did you just get out of the womb and start walking?
I'd like to think so, but I don't know.
You didn't, George. You were carried around, and then you had to crawl, and eventually you learned. But guess what? You probably fell on your face a few times.
Oh, for sure.
Right? You cut your nose, everything. It wasn't the easiest process.
Fortunately, I'm still okay.
But you know how to walk now. You're able-bodied. Not all of us are able-bodied, which I can respect. But at the end of the day, if we are, do we walk? We do. And think about every other aspect then. Anything you're attempting, generally we're not good at the beginning. We're not naturals. We can't just go play that piano right away. Fine.
Rare exception.
We have to try. So imagine you gave up so soon on anything else in life the way you gave up on walking. You would never walked. The idea is we don't put pressure on ourselves, okay? We focus on doing the basics. It comes back. That's what I said to the publisher. Why are we calling this the 6 Commandments of the Chosen Life? There's so much more to this book than the 6 Commandments. To me, there's a whole thing about the road to enlightenment. I would have called it the road to enlightenment. They said, no, because you can't get to the road to enlightenment without following the 6 commandments. So it's always going to come back to the commandments. If you're not doing something in life, check. Are you following all the commandments? Probably not. So instead of worrying about you're not accomplishing, get back to basics.
The profundity, and I might have butchered the word, starts right on the cover then. Because, I mean, that's profound in itself.
That's it. It's
The
the beyond.
road to success starts with the 6 commandments, and it's right on the cover.
It's, George, it's right. That's why the number 6 is so big. There's 6 commandments. That's all. We're focusing on the 6. The 6. We live in the 6. We follow the 6.
Now, I know I'm getting my signed copy. You promised me, and I'm going to hold you to it. But what if somebody just came up to you or grabbed you outside of your yoga class or found you wherever and said, sign this for me? What would you do? What would you say?
So I remember one time I was at a yoga class. You know, I always answer a story with a story and a question with a story, right?
That's why I find you so entertaining.
It's all about fun. So I'm at this yoga class, and at the time I'm blogging. So before podcasting, before writing, I was blogging. So
So you were blogging first too?
yes.
All right. So you've been at creation and writing and words for a long time.
Here and there.
All right. All right.
So we're in the blogging world. This is before like blogging took off. So I was one of the more in the early stages of it, which was pretty cool. Same thing like when podcasting became, I came late to the game in podcasting, but I was early to the game in blogging. So I'm in Shavasana. I'm ready to start my yoga class, and I feel this tap on my shoulder, and I look up, and there's this woman standing there, and she looks at me. She goes, "Hi," and I said, "Hi." She goes, "I love your last article in your blog." I look, I said, "Thank you." And I went back to Shavasana. So I did not ignore her.
Yeah.
So I walk out of the yoga studio. George, if somebody can go and spend their hard-earned money and take the faith in me, then I'm taking the faith in them. Absolutely, I would sign a copy. I would never say no. Absolutely not. I never understood that concept. Because at the end of the day, this is not about being a celebrity. This is not about trying to put somebody above somebody else. It's about connection. When I was a kid and I got my autographs, it wasn't that I'm worshiping those athletes. It was we were connecting because I love watching them play. You're getting the autograph, but you're sharing stories.
Yeah.
Inevitably, what I hope to see when I'm signing that book, I don't need to hear about my story. I know my story. I want to hear their story. When I'm signing, I want to hear what drove them to get that book, what effect it had on their life. Let's build that relationship. And I don't know if you know or not, but it's not that hard to find me. I'm a little out there on social media.
Just a little bit.
And I answer all my DMs. So
Where do they find you on social media? Let Fanland know.
at the end of the day, if you can't remember my name, Jonathan's a hard word to remember because of different variations. Hacohen, just remember the chosen lawyer. That's it. You go on Instagram, chosen lawyer. I'll say hey.
Fantastic. So I got to ask you a question. Let's switch for a second.
Sure.
I think of those, funny enough, Miss America pageants, where they say, if you could have one wish and do one thing, what would be your one wish for what this book does? Not for you, for Fanland.
If I could have one wish come true for this book, I would think the greatest feeling I could have is that one person, and not that I ever wish this upon anybody, George, but somebody that is at their end of the rope and says, I don't know if it's worth going on, or just feeling so sorry in themselves and wallowing that they're done. Like they're going to quit their job and just, wallow and not proceed or think unhealthy thoughts, that they get this book and all of a sudden they say, you know what? I'm going to follow these step by step. It's, you know what? It's manageable for me. I can see it. I'm going to learn. I've never drank water my whole life. He's put the process down for me that I don't have to worry about drinking 10 cups of water tomorrow. I can create a system for myself and I can start with this and work the way slowly. Every little improvement they do is better than what they did yesterday. And all of a sudden, a year later, they're now, wow, I look so much better. I have so much more energy. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go get my dream job. I'm going to marry that person. I'm going to go out with this relationship. Whatever it is, whatever inspires them, I hope one person, if it brings them up, I've done my job.
I think I actually have goosebumps. I think I do. And I want to ask Fanland something. When you pick up this book, when you pre-order it in the pre-launch and you get this book and something, that $1 million idea or 6 changes your life and does something for you, I ask you, reach out to Jonathan A. Hacohen, put a comment on his social media, let him know that his wish has come true. I think that's a fair thing to ask, don't you?
I won't even take commission for it. It's all good. Because at the end of the day, George, it wasn't my idea. At the end of the day, when they're reading this book, think of it this way, okay? You want me to blow your mind? Are you ready?
Well, you already have.
I'll blow it
go
some
ahead,
more.
do it again.
When they're reading this book, they're not reading me. They're looking in the mirror, okay? They are looking in the mirror and they're seeing the best selves. So when they get inspired to go get that $1 million idea, they're the ones who came up with it, okay? I just gave them the map. They chose the road. They followed it.
Fair enough. Let me see this. I saw a good looking dude. Okay, yeah, I was right. All right, no seriousness. That's a soft, silky cover. Tell us about, is there going to be a hardcover? What's the future of the Bible 3.0? Come on, give us a little snapshot. I know we don't even have the book in our hands, but people are already thinking down the road.
I've been asked that one so many times. Like, what different formats? So One of the things I love, okay, so I was a big Stephen King fan in the day, okay? Huge Stephen King fan.
Fantastic. Me too.
Had so many, and most of them I had them as paperback. This is not what you call the traditional paperback. You know, the thing is so thin that you can look through the pages. It doesn't work like that. So this is, to me, the publisher may kill me for saying it, but this is like a hybrid. This is
quality.
This is practically a hardcover without being a
I can't touch
hardcover.
the book, but I can.
It is solid. Like, this thing is solid. So this ain't going anywhere. And those pages, that's a thick page. Like, you're not seeing through this page. You see that?
And it's perfect for folding. I love to earmark sections. I think I'd earmark too much in the book.
And it's the crispest white pot. We thought of every single detail. So when you're reading it, you're feeling it. That's the mood we're putting you into. But in the future, there will be yet another edition. And then there'll be the hardcover, that big bound book. You will get the special edition. It is going to happen. Stay tuned. Plus, in the future, when it starts getting translated into other languages, into other countries. So right now, you buy in Italy, you buy in France, you buy in the UK, you buy in Australia, you're buying this English version. There will be other languages in the future. But George, step by step by step, there's no rush. We have a lifetime to enjoy the Bible 3.0. Let's start from here and grow our way from there.
I know, but I feel I'd want my special collector's edition one day. You know, so that's why I think Fanland's happy to hear about the future of the Bible 3.0.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And I was always a collector. I love, like, I was collecting autographs. I was collecting, like, G.I. Joe figurines, baseball figurines, you know, and we all want, like, our special edition ones, limited edition, and this one's a little different, you know. I get that. So for those collectors in the future, you will be able to have that. You'll have this one that's going to be, the pages are going to be bent, and you're going to highlight, you can put stickies, and then you're going to have your nice crisp one that you're going to put away.
Like the working copy and the display copy.
Exactly.
And you're going to sign them all for me, right?
George, don't get too ahead of yourself yet.
You know I like to make my asks.
Well, okay, well, we'll see how many smoothies I get, and then we'll talk.
We have Fanland witnessing. Now, Jonathan, this has been an amazing, insightful session with you, and I can't wait to read the book. I got to ask you, if you were to tell Fanland one last thing, one last story, one last moment, a blooper, anything, what would it be?
Anything at all?
Anything at all.
I can tell you this much. For a guy who started and stopped so many times for books, okay? And imagine, you can't imagine what it's like to write an original book for months and have like 30, 40 pages and look at it and just rip up the only copy or set it on fire and make it go away. This is like your baby. You put your heart into it and you're like, this is not good enough and it's not going to happen. I can tell you with all certainty, from the second I started writing it and all those weekends and all those weeks of editing and then going to the audiobook, I never once for a moment doubted. I saw the big picture. I was ready. I was cured. I lived enough my life. Like I've always said to myself, why does life have to be so difficult? Why can't something come easily? Why? Why every time I do something, I always get 10 setbacks? I finally reached the point where I let go of those expectations and I let go of where I thought I had to be in life and I just let it be. And you know what? This was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. And it was the easiest thing I ever did in my life because I had so much fun. Because at the end of the day, it didn't matter if I sold 10 million copies or one copy. I just wanted to be the best me possible and challenge myself to see what I can do for it. And at the end of it, I did it. I read it and I said, you know what? I'm really happy with this. And it was the best feeling in the world. You would think it's going to be when I'm holding the book, right? You think it's going to be at the lunch party or when we reach a top seller status. My satisfaction was knowing no matter where it went or didn't go in life, that I was happy with the quality of it and that I was the best me out of it.
Amazing. It sounds like you lived it in creating it, writing it, and living it by sharing it. Hold it up. Hold it up for Fanland. Again, Fanland, pre-launch, order, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, unbelievably low price, huge value, January 18th. Jonathan A. Hacohen, the Bible 3.0. Hold it up for them. Amazing.
All right, you can touch it once more.
Beautiful. My copy.